All right, hey, I'm excited to have Bernie Anderson with us here today, and from World Vision. Bernie, great to have you here. Thanks for flying right in and arriving right at the studio. So.
Right on, yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Dr. Taylor. It's really, really good to be here. Excited to have the conversation.
Cool. Yeah. So, hey, listen, so this year we started this strategic partnership with World Vision. We have absolutely loved it. The kids' lives are being changed. Really stepping into kind of that culture of kindness, like really trying to develop that in our students. So just so the audience understands, give us a little nutshell on kind of what is World Vision, how are they impacting the world? Give us kind of some idea of what you're seeing with the World Vision.
Yeah, well, man, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to come and talk about World Vision. That's one of the things I love to do. So, World Vision's been around like 70 years, and it started really from a prayer from the founder, Bob Pierce. And he said, Lord, break my heart for the things that break the heart of God. And I'd like to think that that's really the theme or the spirit of what we continue to do at the organization for all these years now. And so we really do development work in the spirit of Jesus. We go in and we operate in communities for an extended period of time, addressing those root causes of poverty. But probably more than that, even we just go in this spirit of love, in this spirit of saying, hey, we want to serve, we want to come alongside of, we want to be with you. And then hopefully we provoke the question of, well, why? And then we get to talk about Jesus, right? And so, but we do that work, and it really, again, a big part of what we do is we want to see life in all of its fullness for every vulnerable child out there. So every child should be able to experience all the kingdom potential that they have, and we want to come alongside families and see that happen. And we work extremely hard to do that in a way that's dignifying and loving and God honoring and affirming to every person wherever they live, whatever vulnerable context we find them in. Yeah.
I like the idea where you said that World Vision steps in and handles root causes.
Yes.
And that's actually something I've really enjoyed with World Vision. You know, it's that old adage, like you can give a person a fish and feed him for a day. You can teach them how to fish and feed them for a lifetime. And so like it's that mindset where World Vision steps in, and they're not just going to provide a temporary water source. They want to provide a permanent water source. So how does that philosophy filter into food supply, water supply? Explain that a little bit in more detail.
Sure, absolutely. So we go in and we literally have like a set of questions for a community that we're going to begin to partnership with. And we start very casual, if you will, and just in terms of like if you're starting a new relationship, who are you? Who are we? What do you have? What do we have? What are the resources you have? What do you? And then it's very equal, and we come together and we start these conversations. And then we start to look at what are the root causes? What are the things we need to start with to begin to lift the entire community to a place where they're sustainable, to a place where they can provide some of these basic things. So a lot of times it begins with water, sanitation, and hygiene. And all the sponsorship dollars, so when you sponsor a child for $39 a month, those dollars are pooled with other people's $39 a month. And we feel like that type of community, we do what we call child-focused, community-based development work. So everyone benefits when World Vision enters a community.
Okay, I like
we begin to set up, we begin to nurture and cultivate those relationships full of dignity and love and respect. And then all of the children begin to benefit from that because all those dollars are pooled. And we feel like we can do more if we pull everybody's dollars together. And then we start to address those root causes. We start to talk about wash and how we can get clean water, because clean water changes a lot of things, right, really quickly. Then we start to look at other issues. Maybe there's some economic development. We may start some savings clubs and so forth. And so a lot of the women will lead those savings clubs, and they'll start little businesses. They may need to know, they may need to have a little help with agriculture and growing crops so that they can get food, more sustainable food sources and that sort of thing. So all of those things are determined to a certain extent by what it looks like there on the ground in that area development program. And so we want to just work. We kind of follow God's leading and the leading of the community leaders. I think what's really powerful about our work is that we work with those community leaders. And that may be the mayor or the chief or the some of the people in that community or that province or whatever. And then we're working with the spiritual leaders as well. So we don't leave the pastors out. We're bringing in all the religious leaders as well. So it's just really a powerful kind of community come together. Let's address these issues together and see the entire community lifted up out of poverty.
When World Vision steps into a new area, they're going to go into this new region of the world.
Yep.
Is their purpose to go in and stay? Or is their purpose to go in, stabilize the environment, to bring people up to a sustainable level, and then leave and move on to a new area? How does that work?
Love that question. Yeah, totally not. Our end game is not to remain.
Right.
Ryan, that was pretty good, man. Our end game is not to remain. But no, we want to move along, and typically that happens in 15 to 18 years.
Okay.
Because, again, we're doing really focused, intense addressing those root causes of poverty. That doesn't happen overnight. And so we're there and we hang out, and now even as we're there, a lot of the ownership is slowly being transferred over to the community and the community leaders. So if it's a water project, they're going to have the keys to the well or the borehole or whatever the water source is. They're going to form a committee in that community to make sure that the maintenance is maintained, and when the thing breaks down, or if there's a small fee that's charged, they're going to collect all that. So there's a lot of handing off and shifting of responsibilities, if you will, even through this process over this 15 years. So we are phased development approach. There's like 4 phases, and the last phase is actually a community graduates. That's familiar language to you. You should know that, right? So that community graduates, and then World Vision is gone, and we move on to the next community that needs help.
They both take about 15 to 18 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Kids versus communities. Okay,
Boom,
I
you
like
got
that.
it. Touche.
I like that. Now, I've loved, like, with World Vision, as I've been doing research on them and understanding, you mentioned microloans, stepping into doing that. I was super impressed with the idea where World Vision is actually super cutting edge with soil preparation and understanding how to bring soil back, how to plant crops, what crops are working best in drought conditions, all of those different pieces. Is that coming from one division of World Vision? Is that something that they're hiring out? Is that actually a part of this global conglomerate?
Yeah, that's a great question. We kind of work at a federated model at World Vision. So we have World Vision US, we have World Vision Australia, World Vision Canada. And so World Vision US, we support the field in all of the things that need to happen in those communities that we're doing development work in. And we have an international programs group at World Vision US. And so my guess is, I'm not completely versed on all of this, but my guess is they have a part in that. But we primarily work with locals, with indigenous leaders and indigenous professionals to make sure that those communities are resourced with the things that they need. And so roughly 99% of our global workforce are indigenous to the countries where they serve. So,
and that's a strength of the model. I mean, that's something that they that's really their method.
There's buy-in there.
But I love the idea that helping and provision can sometimes look like science or math, or analytics, or engineering. Like it can really look like all of those different pieces that have to be built in to really provide a truly successful project.
Yeah, it's world class, if I can say that. I mean, it is so intentional and focused and well done, and just at a level that I don't even fully grasp.
Right.
But you're right. It accesses all those experts and all the people who have been trained to understand and to do those things, so that communities can get really the best and have the best opportunity for success in those communities. So.
World Vision, just so our audience understands, is the largest care organization in the world, right?
It's the largest Christian humanitarian and development organization in the world. Okay. Absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah. Now, World Vision has the ability to go into some countries that no one else can get into, which I find so intriguing. So how do you navigate? Like, how does World Vision step in and navigate the political divide, navigate just the safety for their workers. How do you guys handle those things?
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously this mission to go to some of the most vulnerable spaces in the world and contexts in the world. In fact, there's a technical term called fragile context. And we go into these fragile contexts. Generally in those fragile contexts, there's civil and political unrest. There's just the environment isn't great for children and women in particular. And so we talk to government officials. We have people who are trained and know how to do that. We talk to communities in some of the more difficult spaces. That's hard, naturally, especially if there's a regime change or a governmental change, and then we have to deal with new people and try to establish new relationships and so forth. But in general, we have people that go, we communicate with them, we talk to them. And those are the people who are the movers and shakers who can make things happen. And then we partner with government. So I think the strength of our model, as you were hinting at, is that while we love the local church, the global church, if you will, the global church and the local church aren't necessarily experts in development, right? But so we have to partner with governments that see the benefit of us coming in to do our work, do it at a high level, do it at a level that only benefits their communities and the people in their countries. And so we work with them. And a lot of times we get great partnerships that happen and things go well. In some contexts, it's just very, very, very challenging. There are contexts where Christianity isn't the majority faith. So we have to navigate that very carefully with a great deal of respect, love, and prayer. And sometimes we get rejected, right? It just depends. But God shows us, we get a lot of favor a lot of times as well. And I think that's what helps us to get into those places and then not only be there, get in there, but also remain, because you begin to see the work that we're doing. It's not a proselytization at all. We don't come in and say, we're going to do this, but you have to become a Christ follower, right? We are coming in primarily as an organization there to benefit, to lift communities, to be in partnership with governments and communities to lift them out of poverty. So
it's interesting. I was watching an article on the BBC, and it was regarding the most recent catastrophe in Afghanistan, and they were saying how care organizations were unable to get in. Right?
Yeah.
So here they are saying care organizations are having a really difficult time getting in. And yet in the background were two vans going by that said World Vision on them. And I absolutely love this, right? Yeah. So here you are in this space that is a Muslim country.
Yes.
And yet right in the middle of it, World Vision is still bringing in supplies.
Right there, man.
You know? And what I absolutely loved it where they're saying nobody can get in.
Nobody can get in.
And then zoom, two cars go by. No. I mean, it was just beautiful.
And part of that is that we were already there,
right?
We were already doing work there. We're already established. And everything with our work hinges on how well we can establish trust.
That's right.
That's a huge word. And you gain trust by demonstrating the fact that you're competent and capable, and you're loving and blessing and encouraging the people and not expecting a whole lot in return. So,
Well, and those vans, people would have already been accustomed to them. They're not being driven by Americans running over for a quick trip. They're being driven by locals, probably harvesting food that is local and being supplied to locals, which is really, again, such an important component of the epicenter. On the website with World Vision. I love the phrase that is used there, but it says dangerously soft-hearted.
Dangerously soft-hearted. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's great.
Amazing.
Like it's such a great phrase, and to me, it's really a great expression of Micah 6:8. This whole idea of we're going to act justly. We're going to love mercy, and then we're going to walk humbly or live humbly.
Absolutely.
And so it's that mindset of just being able to really apply that in the world. All right, so you have traveled the world for World Vision, and you've traveled an awful lot of spaces. Give us kind of maybe an example or a story that you've seen from the field that really embodies something where your heart was touched and something that's really an expression of World Vision.
Probably one of the first trips that I took with World Vision was to Lebanon, and it was to kind of get up close and personal to the refugee crisis there, the Syrian refugee crisis, and World Vision has been right there in the midst of that since the very beginning. And so I was with a group of pastors, and we traveled we traveled to I cannot remember the technical term, so forgive me for just saying these refugee camps, but there's actually a technical term that's supposed to be used there. But anyway, but we traveled there, and it just gave me a firsthand look at the real difficulty of having to leave your home and what you know, and that place where you're familiar with your bed, you're familiar with the streets around you, and it's your community, and you have to uproot and drag your children now, and now you have to live in a space that's been provided out of it's a response to an awful situation, and it's not ideal at all, but it is something. But nevertheless, it's not your home, and to see families, I have photos still on my phone, to see families kind of uprooted in that space, and to hear a mom talk about how she kind of has to stay up and have one eye on because they're just in like a tent. It's a shelter. It's not there's no foundation, there's no walls. So she's got one eye open, one eye closed, trying to get some rest, just to make sure that there's no animal predators or no human predators that are going to come. Just the vulnerability of that. Is it just kind of wrecks you, because I don't think anything of that. I don't know that I'll ever find myself in a place where there's that level of vulnerability, and then to see, again, just to see kids, and then to see people not even sure of when they will get to return. Your whole entire life, all the dreams that you had, the future that you envisioned for your family is just kind of is on hold or just gone forever.
Right.
And so that was incredibly, that was powerful. I mean, that just kind of rocked me, especially seeing moms and children, and sometimes dads. We don't know the story yet, because dad may have stayed behind and tried to help and do things back in Syria. And so they're unsure. There's an uncertainty even around the dad or the father, and just to live in that sense of uncertainty is just, I can't imagine.
You look at in the U.S. right now, there's such a big talk about kind of the catastrophe of mental health, right? That they're calling it the second epidemic.
Right.
And if you look at the base root of that, it's instability, a lack of security.
Yeah.
And yet we see people around the world, but this is literally their norm.
Yeah.
This is their norm. Their normal is instability and questions. I mean, it's remarkable to see that, and yet World Vision is right there in the middle of it.
Right there. And another piece to that was some of the incredible work on behalf of children. So in the midst of these situations where there's so many children that are now, refugees, and they don't have access to education or anything, World Vision comes along and creates these little educational, again, there's a name for it, it escapes me, but these little educational opportunities, little schools for these children to come and be a part of several days of the week. And they're in the actually local churches are stepping in to house those places so that these kids can come. And so there's a little bit of normalcy, but a lot of it is at the hand of World Vision, just kind of stepping in, recognizing that there's going to be a gap now. Those kids were going to school, fine, but now they can't go to school.
Right.
So can we fill that gap and help them to continue to be educated, even in the midst of this crazy. And then on that same trip, no, that's on a different trip to Kenya, this was such a cool experience where there was a young boy who actually wasn't registered as a World Vision child, if you will, like registered for sponsorship. He was just in the community, but World Vision staff, which, by the way, shout out to World Vision staff in the field, as we say, but I call them our international staff that work directly in these APs. They are absolutely the most phenomenal people, man. I mean, they are there. They know these communities. They know the people. They know the stories, and they work incredibly hard. So I just love them. We absolutely love them. But our staff got word of this child who had a mass on his head, and this little boy needed help. He just needed a medical procedure to remove this mass. And it's non-cancerous, but it just literally, when he would describe it, he would say, "My head is heavy." That's how he would talk about it. And so he said, and so he couldn't go to school. He stopped going to school because everybody would look at it. And then he said, I can't really focus and concentrate because my head is heavy. And so World Vision got wind of it, and then behind the scenes, our staff just kind of started talking, what can we do? This kid isn't necessarily registered for us, but he's a child in a community where we operate. We want to serve and help him. And sure enough, they figured out how to get a physician, a doctor, get him to the hospital, transportation, the whole thing, and to have this mass removed from his head. So I got to visit him post surgery, and then got to visit his family, and it was so powerful to me because we talk a lot about bringing the kingdom of God to earth. That the kingdom is now; it's in the present, and that was just a really powerful example of that to me because God, not supposed to make me cry, man.
But World Vision stepping in even there.
World Vision steps in there, and we see a little glimpse of the kingdom in that moment where this kid's head is not fully restored, but he doesn't have a big old thing that makes his head heavy hanging out there anymore, Yeah. And humbly, our staff saw that and intentionally engaged. We could have kind of ignored it. He's not one of our kids, but it's not about us and our programs. It's about every child. Every child gets to experience fullness of life.
That's right. That's right. So, hey, you're jumping into this gig, big heart, loving the Lord.
Yeah.
How do you get to this spot, Bernie? Like, what brought you here? What's the background?
Man, I was a pastor for 23 years, a long time. In fact, God kind of tapped me on the heart and said at 13, like, I want you to be a pastor. And I wasn't really even clear what a pastor did. I grew up in I grew up going to church. African American, you go to a Baptist church when you're growing up, and that's what I did because mom and dad made sure I went. My grandparents reinforced it. So, but I sensed the call very early to just go and be a pastor. I kind of followed that track. Went and got a theology degree. Went to seminary. Got a master's of divinity. And just loved the local church. Served all those years. But along the way, it's interesting. I had a lot of interaction with World Vision because World Vision partners with churches here in the U.S., of course, and to do really amazing things that bless vulnerable communities. And so I was always just blown away by how dialed in. Everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, man. I was like, these people are odd, right? They're like spooky spiritual, and I don't know, but they really impressed me. And I said, I kind of made the deal with God. I was like, if the calling ever changes for me, if you ever see me doing something else with my life, I'd love to serve at World Vision. I was very specific because I was like, God, I need to serve at World Vision on the church relations team because I don't really know how to do anything else, right? And so God was faithful, and I was pastoring in Florida and really sensed that it was time for a shift, a change. God was kind of calling me to this new space where I could more intentionally, and all along the way, I'd always been involved in serving and missions and so forth. It was time, and I'll never forget. I was at a gathering for World Vision thing. They had invited me to some new thing, and my wife was there with me, and I was feeling this tug, and I kind of whispered out loud, literally, or maybe it was internal, I don't know, but I whispered it to God and said, God, I'd really love to have an opportunity to serve at World Vision. I sense that that's where you want me to be. Standing right behind me was the hiring manager for the church engagement team.
No kidding.
Yeah,
wow.
It's kind of, yeah. So
right there. Almost like God's in control.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of knows what he's doing. and so that started a conversation, and here I am. It'll be 6 years in November that I made the transition.
It's the sweet spot, right? When you get to serve in your calling,
yeah,
at the intersection of your passion and your giftedness, that's the sweet spot.
It is.
That's where if you have the privilege to be able to live at that sweet spot,
right.
It's a life of joy rather than a life of turmoil.
Yeah.
I look at the I've got some different friends. One friend in particular, I'm not going to call him out on the show here, but I'll ask him when he's retiring. Like if he was in the room today, he could tell you to the day. He'll check his watch and tell you to the hour. And I think, dude, you got to get out, man. Like living at a job that you're counting down the minutes of when you get to leave, that is horrendous. Live in the sweet spot where you really get to see how God can direct your path and how he's going to allow your calling to be at that intersection, right?
Yeah.
And you get to live there, which is pretty cool.
I do. It's like, doesn't feel like work, actually. But
when you have a calling like this, it means you're on the road a lot, which means that I suspect
Yeah.
your wife and kids probably have to have a similar calling because it means dad's on the road quite a bit.
Right. Yeah, we've always kind of been this family of just folks that kind of get it. We're not here for ourselves, and so we know that demands a level of sacrifice if we need to go serve, if we're called to a mission. And so I actually grew up as a military brat. So my dad's is a retired commander now in the Navy, and so he was gone a lot. I kind of understood, well, dad has to go serve. And so service, and my mom's a nurse. And so that's been a part of our lives. And so my kids have grown up, obviously, church kids. They're PKs, and they've been around church a lot. And I tell you right now, if you needed to plant a church, you can call on my kids. That'd be your church planting team right there. They know church. They can do this thing. But yeah, it comes with this level of tension. I'm on the road quite a bit. I try to convince my wife to go with me all the time, that she's able to break away. But we make it work. You kind of adapt, and then when we're off, we're off.
Right.
And we Sabbath well.
Right.
We vacation well in terms of just shutting everything down.
And you're still a Florida guy.
I live in Florida. I wouldn't call myself a Florida guy, but I do live in Florida. I'm not a beach guy. I don't really do the beach.
I have a brother who lives in Florida. He's a Florida guy. Let me just say.
Yeah, he's all in.
It's like it was genealogically predisposed to Florida. It's like the weirdest thing in the world.
Wow.
We grew up in Canada. I don't even know how that happened, right?
Okay.
But yeah, it's strange. All right, hey Bernie, let's chat.
Yeah.
I have loved World Vision has this super cool approach called Chosen.
Yeah.
And it has already been impacting our community here. So I can't even believe it's been a year, but almost a year ago, we jumped in with World Vision in this strategic partnership. Give the audience a little bit of an idea, because World Vision does it differently. They kind of go backwards. And so tell us a little bit about
There's
Chosen.
been a major flipping of the script, if you will, in a sense. Not that we don't still do picture folder sponsorship, but we've always felt like God has given us this gift of child sponsorship. It really kind of even goes back into the history of how the organization initially got started with Bob Pierce, et cetera. But when we transitioned leadership, we went from Rich Stearns, who was our CEO for 20 years, and now Edgar Sandoval. As Edgar merged in, he was our CFO under Rich Stearns. As he came in,
years,
he kind of gave, he said, let's talk more about sponsorship, the sponsorship space. Is there something more God wants us to do to come alongside these kids, and especially, what could be kind of the next chapter, the new thing, if you will. And a group of folks got together, ideas started to come in throughout the org, and we landed on this one thought idea, which to me is absolutely genius. I don't know who gets the full credit for it, but I just say World Vision came up with the idea. And it's the idea that what if we could reverse this thing and have kids choose their sponsor, as opposed to the sponsor always getting to choose the child. And so that's what Chosen is. And our first one was February of 2019, Soul City Church in Chicago. And we didn't know what we were doing, to be completely honest. We had an idea, and we weren't even sure that this was scalable. We weren't sure if it would work, and it worked marvelously. I think Soul City Church on that initial, that first Sunday, where we made the appeal, invited people to go have their photo taken. I think 460 people. This is a 1,200 person church, I believe. About 460 people responded that first Sunday. And then they're like, well, hey, can you come back? The pastor, Jeannie Stevens, she was so excited about it. Can you come back the next weekend? And so we called a Chosen launch and then a Chosen reveal. And so you take a photo, and then the next weekend you come, you open an envelope, and you see the photo that you took being held by the child in the field that chose you.
Right.
And that's the reveal weekend. And so that's Chosen. What it does, it just affirms the inherent dignity of every child. It empowers them with choice, because kids who live in extreme poverty generally don't have choice. And it puts us, the well-to-do, often too many choices for us Westerners, in a place of vulnerability. I can't tell you how many people will ask me if they will get chosen. Trust me, you're going to get chosen, right? But it's just that little check mentally, that little thing that says, well, what if I don't get? I like that, because I want us to feel like, this is something this is pretty special that you're going to be
It,
chosen.
it was
Yeah.
cool for our kids and our staff to be able to watch that video take place.
Yeah.
Where we chose to partner with a village over in Honduras and Promesa del Sur in Honduras. And so we chose to partner with this village, and it was such a cool experience to watch this chosen party taking place.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I, our kids are older, but so I'm holding in my hand our sponsored child, Andrea, and in her hand is a picture of me and my wife.
That's right.
And so so here you have that idea that she chose us, and now we have the privilege
Yes.
of just investing in her life.
She invited you into relationship.
Right,
And
which
that's-
is pretty fantastic. It's
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for World Vision? Are we rolling into this idea with Chosen? We roll.
Yeah.
Like, what's next for the
I'm
organization?
sure there's lots of God inspired ideas on the board. I think a big part of our work, World Vision is the number one non-governmental provider of clean water in the world. And so a lot of what we do centers around getting people clean water. And we have this incredible, big audacious goal to get clean water to all the communities that we operate in. I believe that's by 2030. So we've finished up with, oh man, the country escapes my mind. Rwanda. I was just there actually. So yeah, Rwanda. We've managed to get water, clean water to each community there. And now we're working on Zambia. So Zambia is next on the list. And then, there's so clean water is a big one. Fulfilling that vision of making sure that every community every country where we work has access to clean, sustainable water is a big thing for us. So,
As you've seen, you've jumped into organization, both churches and schools.
Yeah.
As you've seen World Vision jump in with this strategic partnership with these organizations, how have you seen those organizations change? I can tell you on our side how it's been here, but how do you see the organizations change with that?
Yeah, it seems like just the level of awareness, just in terms of what is going on, in the world with extreme poverty and people who are vulnerable. People just kind of go, "Oh, I did not realize that almost 1,000 children every day die from drinking dirty water." Right? They die from diarrhea because they drank bad water. And so, just the level of awareness. We've also seen, especially operating in the church space. And we're starting to see even a little data trickle out with regard to the level of generosity that is awakened in a church.
Right.
Perhaps that's true in the school space
Absolutely.
too, right? But people, oftentimes there's a bit of a scarcity mentality where people kind of go, well, $39 a month goes there, we won't come here. But when people get past that and kind of get a bigger vision that God puts on their hearts, we see we're starting to see greater generosity emerge in those communities. So
this is the way that I've looked at it here.
Yeah.
Is as a senior leader, one of the biggest things that we do is drive culture.
Right.
So
Totally.
so for me, yes, we have events, yes, we have sports, yes,
Yep.
we have all those different pieces. But really at the heart of everything that I'm trying to do is to drive culture.
Drive culture, yeah.
And so when I look at culture, I understand, like, for us, we want to develop a culture of kindness. Like we want kids to be able to understand what it is to have a responsibility and to take joy in that responsibility. And so our partnership with World Vision, what I look at is it really has kind of a double impact.
Yeah.
That from a very surface perspective, hey, we get to jump in with a sponsorship of $39 a month and impact this village in Honduras, which is super cool. I mean, and I'm impressed with it just on that one level. Just on that one level, going in, providing clean water, shelter where necessary, food where necessary, teaching them how to plant when necessary, education. So we're going in and making a bona fide impact on that village. And so that from that one impact, that's great. But here, the second impact is that the kids who are every night in their prayers as they're going to bed and they're praying for their student, they're praying for the child that they're sponsoring, that you're watching that culture of kindness be enmeshed in the hearts of these boys and girls, these young boys and girls, so that they're being impacted as well for their generation. That our purpose, our plan is to allow that double impact. We want to impact where we're where our funds are going, but we also want to impact the sending as well.
Totally.
To change that organization. And that's where we've seen our partnership with World Vision has had that double impact.
Yeah.
We've had the privilege here. So I led a group into Honduras in January where I took 43 kids and adults down into Honduras. And then since then, we've had 2 other groups. So we've had a moms and daughters group head back into Honduras. And then, believe it or not, our football team went down to Honduras.
All right.
And they did some amazing work. But to step into the same country where we're serving with World Vision, it makes that multitude of relational kind of facets just take place, which just adds so much benefit to the organization.
Beautiful.
It's that culture of kindness.
Of kindness. Yeah. It's a multifaceted sort of a transformational experience, which is totally what we're after. One of the things that lured me in, if you will, was that when I started talking to World Vision, talking about coming on staff, et cetera, they said, we're moving from this, and this was super intentional and just spoke volumes to me as a pastor, especially. We're moving from kind of a transactional way of doing our ministry to more of a transformational way of doing our ministry.
Right.
And then they showed me evidence of that, because now we have these experiences that benefit the need in the field, but also transform the hearts and minds of God's church here in the States, which is, as a pastor, that is music to my ears, because like you said, it's a culture shift. It changes the culture, it changes the atmosphere, it changes everything in the church to where it just becomes a normal thing. Let's normalize extreme generosity. Let's normalize this thinking about the world and our brothers and sisters that live in extreme poverty. So you nailed it. It's that transformational piece.
I love that. We're kind of challenging people, just like World Vision says, to be dangerously soft-hearted.
Dangerously soft-hearted.
I love that phrase. So
I got to adopt that too.
Hey, listen, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much.
For folks who are watching as well, we're going to air the video on Chosen at the end of this show, and so stick around afterwards, and you can actually watch a little bit of what that is. You're going to see it in person. You're going to actually be able to see the Chosen process taking place in the different countries, which is pretty cool. And then you'll even stick around, and for those of you guys who would like to sponsor, there'll be a QR code available for you where you can actually step in and also kind of get involved in this double impact of World Vision, helping the area and also making sure that you're fostering this attitude of kindness, living dangerously soft-hearted.
Yes.
So, all right, Bernie, hey, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much.
Super glad to have you. We're really excited about what God is doing in this partnership with World Vision as well.
Yeah, no, we're super happy to be partnered with Hebron Christian Academy, and you guys are making a huge difference in Honduras already. So
awesome. Thank you, Bernie.
In the heart of downtown Chicago, hundreds gathered who wanted to sponsor a child through World Vision. But unlike so many sponsorship events before, this one was a bit unexpected. Instead of having people choose a kid from a set of photos, like sponsorship's been done for decades, we did something that we've never done before. Now, the choice is theirs. The choice to take hold of their future, to pursue their God-given gifts, to become change makers in their communities, and even the choice to step into a life-changing relationship with you.